Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coming Soon. This time we're going to be talking about an interesting title coming to the Wii U next month, Pokken Tournament. Now if you guys haven't watched one of my other Coming Soon episodes before, then basically my goal here is to help you see one way or another if this is a game you're interested in, by giving you an overview of the story, gameplay, multiplayer, extras, and systems, before winding down with some of my predictions about the game, what the community is saying about the game, and then wrapping up with my overall thoughts. Not much is really known about the story at this point, but from what I've seen and what I assume, the new story will be tied to a new league known as the Ferrum League. This league will have 4 leagues within it, associated with colors, those being the Green League, Blue League, Red League, and Chrome League. And players are assuming that that relates to the difficulties of the leagues, with Green being the easiest and Chrome being the hardest. Not much on the story, like I said, has been announced, but thus far there are a few characters announced. Those being Nia and her Weevil, and Nia will sort of be like your mentor, Travis and his Garchomp, Keith and his Suicune, and Aaron and her Braxton. Gameplay follows the formula of a 3D fighting game, giving you an arena for you and your opponent to duke it out. Matches will be best 2 of 3, with each round being 80 seconds. Combatants have ranging health levels from Machamp's 660 HP to Gengar's 510. This means each character will start the game off with a different total of health points, and whoever beats more health points out of the opposing player wins the round. Each character will have their own unique feel and gameplay, with different characters specializing in different things. However, there will be some form of Pokemon progression system implemented in the game, so you should be able to control some of your categories of your Pokemon, such as attack, defense, synergy, which is going to be the burst mode, which we'll talk about later, and support characters, which we'll also talk about in a minute. There are a total of 16 playable characters announced at the time of making this, and they are in alphabetical order: Blaziken, Braxton, Chandelier, Charizard, Garchomp, Gardevoir, Gengar, Lucario, Machamp, Mewtwo, Pikachu Libre, Sceptile, Shadow Mewtwo, Suicune, and Weavile. On top of these 16 playable characters, there will also be other Pokemon in the game at your disposal, known as support Pokemon. These Pokemon will give you support during battle, offering different effects when called upon. At the start of each match, after you've chosen the Pokemon you'll be fighting with, you'll be given another prompt that will allow you to choose a support set. These sets will offer 2 Pokemon, such as Frogadier and Eevee, and before each round of the match, you'll be able to choose which one you want to use for that round. There are a total of 26 support Pokemon in the game announced at this time, and their abilities are as follows. Snivy uses the move Leaf Tornado, which surrounds a tornado of leaves around itself that damages the opponent and knocks them upward. Lapras uses the move Surf to create a wave of water that goes into the enemy, damaging them. Emolga uses the move Shockwave, which sends an electric shockwave out that damages the opponent. It will also lower the speed of that Pokemon if it hits. Fennekin uses Ember, and it jumps up and creates a small dome of fire around itself, causing damage. Frogadier uses Water Pulse, a rapid succession of long-distance disc-shaped attacks. Eevee uses Helping Hand, which increases the attack power for a limited time and recovers some HP. Jirachi uses Wish, which completely fills the burst gauge of the player. Whimsicott uses Substitute, which creates 3 substitutes that orbit you for a few seconds and absorb attacks. Mismagius uses Ominous Wind, which slowly moves forward to attack and increases your attack power briefly. Ninetales uses Will-O-the-Wisp, which sends out a small flame that stays in front of you for a short period of time. Farfetch'd uses Fury Cutter, which moves towards the opponent and hits them repeatedly with its leak, stunning them temporarily. Electrode uses Explosion, and it rolls up to the opponent and sets off an electric attack that knocks the opponent backwards. Togekiss uses Tailwind, which increases your speed for a short time. Rotom uses Thundershock, which attacks the opponent while they are in the air. Dragonite uses Dracometer, which unleashes a powerful attack with a wide range. Victini uses the move V-Create, and I couldn't find out what that does, so I apologize for that. Croagunk uses the move Toxic, which approaches the enemy and poisons them. Sylveon uses Reflect, which boosts the defense and provides a small amount of recovery. Magikarp uses the move Bounce, which causes a combo to break when an opponent makes contact. Pachirisu uses the move Follow Me, which absorbs a hit from the opponent. Cubone uses the move Boomerang, which is a long-distance ranged attack. Diglett uses the move Dig, which makes it easier to land combos when an opponent has been hit. Magneton uses the move Tri-Attack, which lowers an opponent's speed. Quagsire uses the move Mud Bomb, which damages an opponent using Guard. Espeon uses the move Morning Sun, which heals status effects and restores some HP. Umbreon, and finally Umbreon uses the move Snarl, which prevents an opponent from landing a critical hit. Support Pokemon will work on a timer system. Once you've used your support power with that Pokemon, then you'll need to recharge before you can use it again. The rate of recharge will depend on what type of power, and some of the supports like Emolga recharging very quickly, and some like Dragonite recharging very slowly. Another important aspect you may have seen in gameplay trailers is the ability for your Pokemon to activate a burst mode. This is a mode that every playable character in the game will have and offers significant boosts to your character for a short amount of time. This mode works off a gauge similar to the support Pokemon, but instead of being on a timer, it is achieved by dealing and taking damage. Once the gauge is filled, this mode can be activated. While you're in this mode, your character will have the option to pull off a burst attack. This is a devastating attack that will eat up a good amount of your opponent's HP, and it's possible to miss with that attack. The last gameplay thing I'd like to talk about that you may have noticed, it's kind of subtle. It's the different phases that a match can take, of which there are two: the duel phase and the field phase. The field phase will have the camera positioned behind your controlled Pokemon, and in this phase you will have full 3D movement around the game's arena. The duel phase, however, makes the game much more like a traditional fighter by bringing the camera sort of almost to the side and locking movement of the player to only go forward and backwards towards or away from the opponent. Most attacks in these phases will stay the same, but some Pokemon will be better in one phase over the other one. Like, I believe Machamp is better in the duel phase and Suicune is better in the field phase, because duel phase usually favors closer fighting while field phase favors further away fighting. Multiplayer is obviously a pretty big attraction in these types of games, and of course Pokken Tournament will feature this with both online and local play. For online play, the game will run at 60 frames per second, and you'll have the option to play friendly matches or ranked matches. For local play, you'll have two options. You can LAN with another Wii U system and each play on your own respective TVs, or you can play on the same Wii U and one player using the Wii U's gamepad and the other using the TV. The player using a gamepad will see their character's perspective through the gamepad screen, and the second player will use the TV and a second controller to use their character's perspective. Since the game has to run on the gamepad, however, the game will only run at 30 frames per second instead of the usual 60 if you're both playing on the same Wii U system. For extras, let's talk about the Pokken Tournament controller. Now, if you guys don't know, Pokken Tournament is actually already out in Japan, but it is out as an arcade machine. And what's interesting about that machine is, instead of the typical fighting controls, like, you know, you have the joystick controls when you play a fighting game, instead of that typical control, you have a actual controller that's hooked up to the arcade machines. And now that the game is coming out in America and coming out worldwide, they are releasing a controller that is the same controller that you can play the game with if you were going to play it on the arcade machine, which is pretty interesting. Another extra thing that I'd like to talk about is amiibo support. And according to the official Nintendo Amiibo site, this game will be compatible with all amiibos that are on the market today, which is pretty interesting. It doesn't say what amiibos will do for the game, but if I were guessing, I would probably say it would be similar to what they did with Yoshi's Woolly World or Super Mario Maker, and make the additions cosmetic. Another interesting thing that I found was that the game will come pre-packaged. The first run of the game will come pre-packaged with a Shadow Mewtwo amiibo card. And this will unlock Shadow Mewtwo from the beginning of the game. I found that kind of interesting. I think that is the first card-based amiibo that they've had. But the Shadow Mewtwo can also be achieved through specific stipulations in the game just to unlock him. But I think the amiibos that you can use, like if you had a Bowser amiibo and you put it on there, I think the things you would unlock would probably be cosmetic. I'm assuming they would be for something like your... Like, you can customize your trainers in the single-player storyline. Well, I guess probably in multiplayer too, but you can customize your trainer through something called My Town, which is in the game, and you can spend Poke Gold, which you get after every battle. You get Poke Gold, and you can spend it in My Town and customize your player's avatar. And I'm assuming it'll be customizations for that if you use the amiibo, is what I assume, but I don't know. They haven't announced that. They haven't really talked about amiibo support. For the systems, Pokemon being a Nintendo-owned property pretty much ensures that this will only be hitting the Wii U. If it does come to another console, it will probably be the 3DS, but as far as I can see, there are no plans for Nintendo to release it on the 3DS at this time. As for what the community is saying about the game, it seems pretty positive. Most people are excited for the gameplay of it. Actually getting a 3D Pokemon fighting game is pretty exciting. Then there are some people that are less excited about it, saying that it's just like Tekken with Pokemon characters, and there are people who just think it's a dull idea. Personally, I think this game looks very interesting. I'm not a hardcore fighting game player, but I do play them occasionally, and this is definitely one I'm willing to check out, if not just to see my favorite Pokemon Gengar do some crazy awesome moves in like full HD glory. I think that's going to be very fun. If I had to pick one thing that I like about the game, I'd say, well, Gengar's in it, so if I had to pick two, I'm pretty impressed with how fluid the game actually looks. I watched about 2.5 hours of a live stream on YouTube. I think it was from E3 last year, Nintendo's Treehouse or something like that. They had a Pokken Tournament tournament with some of the best players around the world, and they came and they played like a beta of it with several different characters, and it was about 2.5 hours. But I watched that, and it was actually pretty interesting. I enjoyed watching the gameplay of it. It's very fluid. It's got some depth to it. They said they're trying to make it easy to pick up, but have some depth to it so that fans of more difficult fighting games, because, I mean, this isn't going to be the most difficult fighting game because they don't want to alienate people who aren't really into fighting games. That's not really what Nintendo likes to do. It's kind of like Smash Brothers. They're trying to keep it the learning curve not that high, so button commands aren't as difficult as they would be in something like Street Fighter or something like that. But they're trying to keep it accessible, and it was very interesting to see it played by like professionals who are professionals in the craft, I guess. It was interesting to see it like that. If I had to pick something that I didn't like, or I think I won't like about the game whenever it comes out, it's the arenas themselves. Now, if you've seen any gameplay, then you've probably noticed that every stage, it's different, but they all have the same layout. It's just a big circle that you or your opponent duke it out in, and the aesthetics change around it, but the layout never does. It's always just that big circle. Personally, that just kind of seems boring to me. Varying topographies would have been more interesting to me, I think. More in the line with the actual Pokemon world as well. And I'm sure there's problems with this in like a fighting game kind of scenario, with the topographies getting in the way of the fighting or things of that nature. But like I said, I'm not really a very big fighting game fan, so I don't really know the mechanics of it. But that's just something that I think is going to bore me when I'm in the game, is all the arenas are basically the same. I just think that doesn't really add much variation in the map style, I guess, is what I'm saying. So to wrap this up, I think this game is looking very interesting and will make a fun game for Pokemon fans as well as fighting games to check out. This game is scheduled for a worldwide release on March the 18th, which is exactly 1 month from today, if I can get this video done in time. And if what I've said in this game has piqued your interest at all, then make sure to check out some gameplays on it to further expand your knowledge. I hope I was able to give you a bit better of an idea what this game is going to be like when it is released. And if you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative, then please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. I do coming soon episodes on games that I'm interested in, as well as some other stuff on my channel, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.